Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad on behalf of CameraStuff, and welcome to yet another In the Limelight interview. Today, joining us is Tarryn Goldman, who is a very exceptionally good conceptual and portrait photographer, and I'm assuming other types of photography as well. Hello, Tarryn. How are you doing?
Hi, how's it, guys? Welcome, everyone.
Okay, awesome. So we have plenty of things to discuss today. As per normal, I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just for more people to join. But I think in the meantime, let's just remind everyone that in the comment section, you're welcome to ask your questions and we will tackle them as we go along. Yeah, so that profile picture of mine, sorry, we just spoke off air. That was taken in my bedroom like 10 years ago. It's something I need to update at some point, one of the
Uh,
dinosaurs.
I absolutely love that photo. I actually can remember seeing it as when I first started photography. I remember thinking, geez, that guy's so good. Like, and it's just so, it's just such a different profile picture. It's a really great image.
Gosh. That's my favorite one, and I hesitate to get rid of it. But it needs to be updated. I've gotten old in the meantime.
Haven't we all?
All right. So, also as another reminder, if you're watching this in one of our Facebook groups, I can't see your name, so it comes up as Facebook user. So, if you're watching this in the Facebook groups, just pop in your name as well, so we know who's talking. All right. So, I think we have a bunch of people already. Okay. So, I think we're going to get started. All right, Taryn.
Cool.
So, the questions are going to pop up here in the bottom left-hand corner. So, just to get us started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am a full-time photographer. I've been doing photography for about 12 years now, something like that. It was a bit of a strange start. My dad passed away, and I moved to Joburg, and I started hanging out with my godfather, who was a cameraman for the BBC for about 20 odd years. And he walked like my dad and he talked like my dad. And so I just wanted to hang around him. And he gave me a camera one day and he's like, here we go, just go and have some fun. And I literally just turned 30, I think. And I picked it up, and 2 weeks later, I was like, now I'm a photographer. Give me your money. I quit my job and I just went for it. And that was literally 12 years ago. Um, I'm interested in all kinds of photography, but I think I found my passion with portrait photography. I used to do a lot of events, like music events for Ultra and H2O and all of that. But I really think portrait photography, you get to stretch yourself a little bit because there's so many different kinds of people and try and tell a
Mm-hmm.
story. Yeah, and that's about it. I've got a daughter who's 15, who's the love of my life, but other than that, I'm pretty boring.
No, not at all. All right, just to show how not boring you are, I'm just going to give people a bit of a taste as to what you are capable of. So I'm just going to run through a slideshow here. Now, just to quickly let people see what Taryn here is capable of. Now, so a bunch of incredible photography here, and we're going to talk about it as we go along. So, in conjunction with the interview, we're going to talk about these images one by one as well. All right, so let's do our next question. So I think for those who are interested in gear and whatnot, let's get a bit of an introduction as to what is in your camera bag.
So that's so at the moment I've got a Fuji X-T2. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I come from a Canon. I've been shooting Canon for about 8, 9 years. And then just when lockdown happened, just before lockdown happened, I looked at my cameras. I had a 5D Mark III, and I looked at my camera, and it was like 80% actuations, and I was like, oh, I need to get something new. And the price of the new cameras is just really, really expensive. So I had a look at the mirrorless, and Fuji are very competitive with their prices. And I basically did a swap. So I swapped over my Canon 5D Mark III. I got a Fuji X-T2, almost brand new. I swapped my three lenses. It's a bit of a taking getting used to because it's not a full frame, obviously. So I've got a equivalent of a 50 mil. I've got a 35 mil. I've got
Mm-hmm.
a very wide angle. I've got a 14 to 21, I think. And then 24 to 105. It's quite wide range of kind of apertures as they go, you know. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
got two studio lights. I've got two Godox 8200s, which I live and
Okay,
breathe. I
great.
love them. They're fantastic. Yeah, very
Now
small
those
bag.
8200s are great. All right, so a bit off on topic here. So jumping from full frame to mirrorless, what was that jump like? Do you see the advantages of mirrorless? Besides the pricing, like I know it's one of those big arguments online comparing mirrorless to the old DSLRs. Is it something that you find interesting, the debate itself, or is it just a matter of
Um,
taste?
I think it's just a matter of taste. Look, the Merlins took me a long time to get you to get used to. I didn't find it easy at all. It was a very steep learning curve for me. When I went onto Fuji, I still like I've still got to look at the menu and try and find where things are. It doesn't come. Canon I find comes very naturally. Like the user preface is very easy for myself anyway. And the color is different. The color is very different. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if I shoot in RAW, so I can change it in after the fact. But the color that comes out of the camera, I find very kind of steers to almost purple. I don't know if it's just my eyes or, but I found that to be the major difference. Other than that, you know, I think it's just preference of what do you enjoy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I didn't find the swap over very easy at all. Took me about a year to get used to it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still one of those, but still use the DSLRs. But yeah, I think my personal input on this, it just depends on what feels better in your hands and if the mirrorless does make sense to you. But all things considered,
Honestly,
the camera system doesn't make you a better photographer. It just kind of depends on what you are used to in your hands.
yeah. No, look, I mean, if I had the option, I miss my 5D Mark III, but I will say one thing: the Fuji system is much
Mm.
lighter, so it's a lot less strain on your body and your personal like lugging it everywhere. My whole system plus my lights fit into a camera bag, whereas before with my Canon, never in a million years would have that all fit into one camera bag. So it's a lot less to lug around. So practically, it's a lot easier.
Oh gosh, yeah, I can say something about that as well. So the camera I use is a Pentax K1. It's one of those big, chunky, full frames, and after every photo shoot, I feel it in my neck and my arms the next morning.
Exactly. That was my worst, just trekking
Mm.
around like H2O for 12 hours. I used to have a cowboy belt that I made myself with two leather pockets. I used to put
Oh
my
gosh.
lenses there, and then I used to have two cameras. And I promise you, by the end of that day, I was absolutely exhausted, ready for bed.
Yeah, I feel the pain. All right, so let's talk about your career. So, broadly speaking, what would you say are your top three proudest photography moments?
Um, so they've actually happened the last maybe year or two. It's taken about 10 years to get started. But I think the first one is I had a magazine called Object, which is quite a new magazine in South Africa, contact me to do an actual interview once they'd seen a shoot I did online. And I thought it was just a little interview, but it was like I think it was an 8-page spread or something like that. And this woman
Mm.
came to interview at my house, and it was, um, you know, you hear about imposter syndrome all the time, and I constantly have to push that down. But when this came out, I was very proud to see my stuff in print and to have the recognition from it. But yeah, it was a great experience. Then I had a guy who runs a photographer. I never know how to say that. I'm always going to butcher it. The uh, photographer. But I've
Something
been
like
reading
that,
his
yeah.
stuff, something like that. I've been reading his stuff for years, and he also got a hold of a series that I did called The Painted Girl, where I literally painted women. Oh, this one was for sorry, Carl Taylor. I don't know if you
Okay.
know Carl Taylor, but he's a very well known product and kind of lifestyle photographer. And this was for the photographer, but yeah, so I'm not making any sense. He got hold of me for The Painted Girl, and then he published these in the photographer. Um, on their website and everything. And that was also just a very proud moment for me. I know he's international and stuff like that.
Okay,
And then
awesome.
Carl Taylor was just another one being published. Carl Taylor, who's a fairly infamous kind of famous photographer, product photographer, mentioned me in one of his chats, and I was just like, "Wow, Carl Taylor's talking about me. That's so cool." Um, and yeah, that's about it. There's just kind of, I don't know if it would make everyone proud, but yeah, it's just stuff that I enjoyed. Getting the recognition from other really well known professionals. Um, Certainly did the job for me.
Yeah, so in reference to the painted girl, you are a couple of them, and we'll definitely talk about these as well. And you also sent me a video so we can get some behind the scene action here as
Yeah.
well. So if you're interested in all of this, do stick around. We're going to talk about these images one by one. Yeah, but certainly a lot to be proud of, to get featured in a magazine and for other people to want to publish your work. I think these are the checkpoints we all strive towards as photographers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to, not to ride yourself on that, but to feel like you are recognized in an industry. I mean,
Mm,
the photography industry is quite small in Joburg. I mean, everyone kind of knows. It's not tiny, but I mean, a lot of the top photographers know each other, and to be recognized, in any way, shape, or form, especially internationally, is important. But I don't ride everything
mm.
on it. If it didn't have happened, it wouldn't have changed my career in any way, shape, or form.
All right, makes sense. All right. So, in regards to the conceptualization process, now tell us how you go about taking your plans and kind of fulfilling the plan on photo. So, what is the step-by-step guide to you?
Um, excuse me. It's a messy. It's a very, very messy process. I will often get inspired by other photographers or random things that I see, or art. I grew up with a lot of art, or movies, or series or whatever, and then I think, oh, that would be a great idea, and then I think about it a little bit more, and I'm quite I like to shoot tomorrow. I want to organize it, but I want to be able to shoot it. I don't like to wait for 3 or 4 or 5 months or whatever. So
Mm,
as soon as I've got the concept nailed down, I will go online and I'll have a look if anyone else has done it before. Um, and if they have, I'll try and see how do I make it better or make it my own. Um, Otherwise, I will find images that will kind of complement it and create a mood board. And then I go about speaking to a team. So, like makeup artist, model, um, depends how big the shoot is, but sometimes a stylist. Um, and then I literally try and plan it for as soon as possible so the idea is still fresh in my head. But it's a lot of kind of I, I also say I shoot to the fly, so I may have an idea in my head and I've got this concept of how I think it's going to turn out, but then on the day something will happen or
mm,
it won't go exactly the way I want it, and and you just have to be kind of creative on the fly to make it better. I know it looks good on camera and I know what shot I'm looking for. So if it's very different to commercial work, say, where I know people plan in advance and everything has to go according to T, but it's my image, so I can kind of create as I go, and that's what I like about it. That's a fun for personal conceptualized shoot, should I say?
mm. Yeah, I find personally, the more I plan, the more stressed out I become during the photo shoot itself. So,
Absolutely.
so to kind of go on a fly, have some basis as to what you need to do, but kind of need to allow things to happen, kind of just fall
If,
into
if
place on
there's
the day as well.
if there's big things you need to organize, you obviously need to organize beforehand, like clothing or smoke
Mm.
machine, or that has to be organized. But the general nitty gritty of the images, I find I always have an idea, but then go very differently on the day. So yeah, like you say, it's a little bit of freedom is always good for the soul.
Yeah, I find with a model as well. Like I haven't met the model before. Sometimes on a day, what I had planned in my head, he or she just does something or flourishes in a very different way, and you just have to go with that
Yes,
flow as well.
absolutely. I mean, the model is a huge important part. Obviously, she's the one
Mm,
in the image, and I've got a couple of models that I work with, and I've got a lovely girl who is very I use her a lot because she's so transformative. She's like a chameleon. She can be anyone, and she's very good at shaping her body. So I basically tell her more or less what I need, and then she just kind of goes with it. And she's great because I can literally put a wig on her and she looks like someone completely different. But I understand what you're saying. When you get a model who doesn't necessarily how to model, it's very difficult to pull it out of them, to try and yank the ability to model out of them.
Mm.
And I think a model is super important.
Now, this is where the experience steps in. So, yeah, just from our side as photographers, just to help people in the right direction as well, just to find that, yeah, some people have different sparks, as I like to call it, and they flourish in different
Absolutely.
ways.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very different from a client. A client that you get, you don't have the option to have a client that models, otherwise they wouldn't be asking you
Mm.
for a photograph. But I think that, if you're working with a client, you've got to work with whoever you've got. And some people are very uncomfortable in front of the camera. And your role as a photographer is to make them feel completely at ease and completely, because the more comfortable they are, the more natural they're going to appear. And
Yeah.
uh, that's going to relate onto camera very, very definitely.
All right. So we have our first question from an audience member. All right. So photo manipulation or in camera, which do you prefer?
Oh, gosh. I really try to get everything I can in camera, and I've learned that over years and years of experience. Is that whenever you think it's going to be easy in Photoshop, it never is, and there's
Mm.
always something that is, you know, you haven't thought of, or the light is different, or the temperature of the light is different, and to change that in Photoshop afterwards is always, it makes the image look less if you don't know how to do it properly. So I'm a self-taught Photoshop artist, and I've literally taught everything that I know. So I don't know everything. I don't have this incredibly wide field of knowledge as far as it comes to Photoshop, but I know what I like. Like, I learned by going YouTube. Okay, how do you replace a limb? How do you swap a head or whatever? And that's how I learned. But I prefer to get everything in camera, and then I like to play with Photoshop. Is fantastic for color grading for me, or let's say for gentle kind of transformations. If I want to do a proper composite, that's a different story. Then I'll shoot something on a plain background. But yeah, I prefer in camera, but I love to do photo manipulation as well.
Mm.
That answers your question.
No, certainly does. All right. So next question from our side: how do you avoid losing inspiration? So how do you keep the creative juices flowing? So my previous
Gosh,
workshop, we spoke about lighter's block. So as opposed to writer's block. So how do you get over the quote unquote lighter's block?
so at the beginning, I think it was my time was all jumbled up. I think just before lockdown. What year was that? That was 2017, I
Yeah,
think.
gosh, I think
Something like
all
that.
of our brains are scrambled as far as the
No,
dates are
so
concerned
just
after the
before
pandemic.
lockdown, I think I hit like year 9 of doing photography, and it was very quiet for some reason, and I just had a major lapse in kind of inspiration. I did not want to pick up a camera at all, and I did not want to deal with clients. I did not want to um, nothing. And literally lasted like 7 months. It was really quite scary. I did the jobs that I had to stay alive, but I was not interested. And I actually kept thinking, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't want to change jobs, but I don't want to do this job anymore. What am I going to go and get a normal job? And actually watching a inspirational video on writer's block, or the equivalent of the artist, from
Mm,
an South African YouTuber, actually got me out of it. But it's very difficult not to avoid losing, or it's very difficult to feel inspired all the time. But
mm,
I think what I do is I enrich my life with a lot of things that so I'm constantly taking in content, from the news to the videos to TV to reading. I love reading to museums and art galleries, and I make sure my life is full. I'm busy doing a pottery course at the moment. And through that, I meet different people, and I've just always got the fact that I work in the back of my head, like photography going in the back of my head, like, wonder if this person would look good for a shoot, or I'm not against like walking up to a complete stranger in the middle of the road and saying like, listen, I'm a photographer, I'm not a weirdo, I promise, would you like to pose for a photo shoot? And people are often like, oh my god, that's so weird. But you've just got to keep yourself, it's a process. You have to keep yourself alive and keep yourself interested in your art, and keep yourself read on the latest functionalities of the art industry as far as gadgets go or people go, and then across the world, just make yourself interested in art and drama and life in general. I basically do that. I take in a lot
Yeah, I
of
can.
content.
Hmm. Yeah, I can truly emphasize with that during the pandemic era. That has hit a lot of people very hard, some more than others. And I think that separation also didn't do inspiration a lot of good as well, because now we are social beings and we need to bounce off one another. And with that taken away, I think a lot of us just dropped with motivation and inspiration. So luckily things are somewhat back to normal, and we can bounce off one another again, get it back into groups,
Absolutely.
talk, debate, have discourses, etc. Yeah, so good for
I
that.
mean, during, I actually must be honest, I loved actual lockdown. I was fortunate enough to stay with my mom, so it was just myself, my mom, and my daughter, and we stayed at our home, and it was really nice. In fact, I didn't have to see any clients. I just kind of got over that inspiration thing. I just got a new camera, so I had to play with a new camera. And Andre Badenhorst had this
Mm,
group called ISO group. It was just like a group chat where he got a number of photographers together, and he held a weekly competition. And that was really, really, really fundamental in actually keeping my brain screwed on in the right way. So every
mm.
week we used to have to come up with a new image, and then he would judge it like every week, and it was really, really fantastic. And I love lockdown. I must be honest. I didn't have to see anyone. I didn't have to do anything, and I got to be creative for the first time. But like without any, other than I couldn't go to a hardware store, which was a disaster. But I got to really be creative, and that's actually where my whole kind of journey with fantasy began. Was during lockdown. Funny enough,
Okay,
because I started playing on the
interesting.
computer with Photoshop and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right, so I think on topic, how do you bring the you into your photography? In essence, how do you make sure your photography has its own quote unquote Tarryn flavor? And what advice would you give other photographers who are struggling to find their own uniqueness in their brand of photography?
Stop stressing about it. Really, it's not. I mean, I think I only realized that I had a Tarryn kind of feel to my photographs um, a year and a half, 2 years ago. I really didn't know that, and I used to struggle. It was one of the questions I used to ask myself constantly: is how do I make people know that this is my image? And when you've been doing it for a certain amount of time, you just developed styles and the way that you shoot people, the way that you shoot things, without realizing it, you just automatically go to that angle or that height or that, and so your work will have a natural progression of who you are, and people will be able to pick that up. I realized that I love cooler colors. I don't love warmer colors, so that has kind of been a theme. But that's just because I like that kind of color. It wasn't an intentional. This is going to be my look and feel. But really, stop to other photographers, I'd say stop worrying about it. It's really, really not. You will develop it as you get experience, and time will be the most important things in developing who you are and your style as a photographer. It's got very little to. If you try and force it, you will find that you don't stick to it, because you will find something else that interests you or another look that interests you, and it won't be truly you. Who you are will come across in photography because you like or you don't like things, and the way things sit. Look, that's my opinion anyway.
I definitely resonate with that. Some good words there. The more you force it, the more you kind of go into reverse. That's a very good advice
Absolutely.
there. All right. So if you don't mind, we have a bunch of
Mm,
comments, not
mm.
specifically questions, um, But to kind of pat you on the back, I'm just going to pass on some compliments here. So from Brendan, good advice. And from Daniel,
Thank you.
hi, amazing work.
Thank you very much.
And somebody who you may know, Ashley Marie Miles. Sorry, I'm late, but here I
Hello,
am now.
Ashley. Another
Also
phenomenal
from
photographer.
Brendan. Oh, yes, absolutely. We had her on the previous time. Your work is
Yes, yes, I
phenomenal.
saw.
Well done, Brendan. Saying again.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. Love it. Again, if you're commenting from a Facebook group, we don't get your name. So just comment your name if you're on a Facebook group watching this. And here's a question. Oh, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, so where are you based? Maybe I will pass by and pop in one day. All right, so just pass in your name as
So
well. But yeah, where are you based?
I'm in Kailami in Midrand. I moved here 10 years ago. I love it. So um, it's not too central. So I'm not in the middle of Sandton or Fourways, but it's 5 minutes to everywhere. So, but I work from my home, so I'll have to know who you are before I give you my address. But yeah, I'd love to see
Of
people. Yeah, sure.
course. Another question. So, how do you come up with such amazing concepts? So, I kind of touched on it before, but
No,
I
it's
don't know.
just
So, if there's nothing else you want to talk about
the
there.
world, living in the world.
Mm.
Magazines and books and art. I love art, and the old masters do such phenomenal work. The old painters, not photographers so much, but obviously and other photographers. I mean, I'm in awe of other photographers. I love how they present their work. I've got a couple of other photographers. I'll put them in a list down below that you guys can go and have a look at. That are really, really incredible photographers. But yeah, it's just the world around me. An idea, a dream. That's basically it.
That's a good answer. All right. So, this interview you had was at Object Magazine. I think you can drop that PDF in the
Yeah.
comment section as well so people can have a look at that. But there's an interesting thing that you touched on, but I did find quite intriguing. Something you mentioned about fast fashion. So, tell us a little bit more about that.
So I actually even wrote down some things for this. So basically, fast fashion is the world that we're living in the consumption of textiles as a world is increased exponentially since say the 1980s. They say that Americans are buying 5 times more textiles on a yearly basis, each person, 5 times more than they did on a yearly basis. And I think I've got the numbers here that they said every average American household produces 32 kilograms of textile waste every year. We fashion industry as a whole contributes to nearly 10% of global gas emissions. That's through making the products and obviously throwing them out as well. And I just like if you think a t-shirt takes 2,000 liters of water to to make one t-shirt. I mean that's just it's insane, that and if you have a look at players like Zara and H&M and stuff like that, they are really just making fashion faster than people can wear it. And it's all for money, you know what I
Mm.
mean? We don't need a t-shirt every single week. The fashion industry as a whole used to have, I think, 4 or 5 seasons a year. So, winter, summer, whatever. Now they've
Mm-hmm.
got 52 micro seasons. They've got
Oh,
one,
wow.
designers are releasing a new fashion range every week. And it's too much. It's like everything else in the world, it's too much. So, but it's something
Mm.
that I can do something about. I can choose to buy less fashion. I can, I love fashion, but slow fashion is what I appreciate, is where I go towards where they make stuff that's handmade, that's really taken the time and the effort, where your textiles come from.
Mm.
What can stuff that will last. If I look back, my mom's got a bag or two. She loves bags, and she's got maybe 6 bags, and she's had the same 6 bags for as long as I can remember. And those bags have lasted at 20, 30, 40 years. They're leather bags. They were expensive for the day, but you don't get that. You don't get that kind of quality. Well, you don't. you're starting to again, but you don't really get that anymore. I bought a pair of Adidas sneakers the other day that maybe a year and a half ago that cost me 1,300 rand, and I'd gone through them like within 6 months. I was like, that's not right. I mean, I don't
Hmm.
know. Like I just remember Adidas lasting years and years. I don't know. Maybe I'm from too long ago, but it's just the way that we're going through clothing and stuff like that. It's too quick, and it's just something that I feel passionately about. Um, I think that the textile industry produces 92 million tons of textile waste every year.
Wow.
That's a lot of waste. It's a lot of landfills that are being taken up or burned off, create carbon emissions and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
so
topic
that's
was mentioned in this article, and it was pointed out that you are going to, you typically reuse everything that you've used before. Yeah, so your major publications, all of this fashion, will be repurposed in the future.
yes, absolutely. So like the outfits and stuff like that, if I don't, I normally will approach a designer and get dresses from them. I've got a couple of designer labels that I've kind of built a relationship up over time. But like the dress that you're seeing in that image, I made that from um, a
Mm,
piece of material that I'd found that I'd had stored for years. I'm a terrible hoarder when it comes to material. I keep all kinds of materials, and I literally made that outfit and I put her on stilts, and it just gave that kind of feeling that I was going for, that kind of slightly alien, you don't quite know what's going on there effect. But yeah, I do feel very passionately about it, and I think that I teach my daughter not to throw if something's broken, mend it. You don't have to
mm.
darn socks, obviously, but like if your t-shirt's got a rip in it, fix it if you can.
Yeah, so I brought up this topic because I think it relates to the photographer's mindset as well. This kind of fast pace, want you to keep up with the trends and all of the new fancy tricks as far as photography is concerned, without actually cultivating your own style, trying to align your motivation to something that is a bit more sustaining in the future. Yeah, so I think
Absolutely.
people try to reinvent themselves a little bit too quickly. And I think a better way of going about it, this is a personal opinion, but it's just to kind of keep the good things and incrementally weed out the bad things and kind of just evolve yourself over time.
Absolutely. I think that people are very much on a track to everything wants to be done today. They want everything
Mm,
yesterday. No one's prepared to wait for something anymore. And that's what they want with their persona, with their image. They want everything to happen now. It can't take a year or 2 years to build up your skill level. It must
mm.
happen in a week. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And people will be very disappointed. But that's just the way it is. Things take time. Anything worth
Oh,
it takes
yeah,
time.
absolutely. All right, so a couple of questions. Well, three, in fact. Are you a wedding photographer, and what advice can you give to a beginner who is interested in wedding photography?
Run, run very fast. I did weddings for a number of years, um, and I think that if you are very passionate about weddings, I would let me say I would specialize. So if you want to do weddings, and don't do
Mm,
much else. Simply because it is a very saturated industry, and to get clients that are willing to pay is not the easiest thing in the world. You have to build up quite a name. Don't offer free weddings. Don't say I'll shoot your wedding for free if you let me be the no. Just go and shoot as much as you can and try and find another photographer you can shadow or assist, even if you're not shooting at the wedding, so you can go see how the whole thing progresses. Weddings are a great way to kind of learn how to be a photographer because you work with everything from the details of
mm.
the rings and the shoes and the perfume to working with people to like almost fashion styles where you're working the dress and it. So you kind of go through a lot of a very very large range of photography genres when you're doing wedding photography, but it's not easy and it's someone's wedding at the end of the day. That's what you
Mm.
people don't They don't want to think about it. Is that if you can't mess it up, you can't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Can we reshoot that quickly?" Or if you miss something, it's gone. Or if you do something like, not pack your SD card, or your camera breaks and you don't have a spare camera, you cannot mess up on that day. That's someone's very, very special day, and people aren't willing to pay what they should. I mean, it's a long, long, long day. It's like a 16 hours, 17 hours sometimes. So people aren't really willing to, I didn't find, pay what I feel I'm worth with weddings, unless you
Mm.
go to the top echelons. And I just didn't have the time or the patience to actually try and get there. I didn't love weddings that much. I ended up doing a couple of weddings a year, like 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever. But after that, it's just, I'd rather leave it to someone who just does weddings and who loves it. I don't love it enough, personally.
Sorry, I think we may have lost Tarryn there for a second, or may have lost me.
Yeah, I lost you
All
there for a
right.
second. Sorry.
Oh, welcome back. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, so I think a good answer there. So another question from Daniel. Where do you find your models to work with, and what advice would you give to someone who is new to the photography world?
When I find models to work with, gosh, it's quite an intimidating thing to try and find a model. Uh, I used to try and approach modeling agencies. I never really had much luck there, but just kind of your everyday life. If you see a pretty girl, it's a bit more difficult if you're a guy. You don't want to come across like a creep. But if you see a pretty girl, stop and ask them. Would you mind shooting for me? Make sure you got a card. You're very professional. If they want to bring a friend, that's fine. Um, I literally just or phone if you know one model, they'll often know friends and stuff like that. So and put it out on Facebook. I often put out on Facebook a model call, like looking for models to work with, and through that you'll slowly build up kind of a database of people
Mm.
who can do work for you. It's all about kind of who you know in the photography world, not really much about what you know, but who you know. So, and also find people, makeup artists, ask if they know models. Everything is very, very connected, network based. So once you've developed your network, ask your other people that other photographers, do you have any models or that you like to work with?
Mm.
And what advice would you give to someone
Oh,
who's new? Shoot as much as you can. As take your camera everywhere with you. Um, yeah, I think that is the only thing, because through that you will get to know how to shoot. You'll get to know what is expected of you, and you will work out what you expect in return as well. But shoot, yeah, shoot as much as possible all the time. That would be
okay,
my advice.
great. All right, so I see we have 40 minutes in, so let's quickly get into the images, shall we? All right, just going to pop that up.
Sure.
All right, so what we're going to do now, so just the slideshow I showed you at the beginning of the interview. So we're just going to talk about these one by one. So basically, I'm going to pass the ball on to you, Tarryn. So I'm going to show you the image and basically just ask you, okay, tell us more.
Okay, so this was a fabulous shoot. This was taken at Kempton Park Abandoned Hospital.
Oh,
You can't
okay.
get in there very easily. You have to know someone. I was invited by someone that I know, and we went as a group of photographers. And basically, what they did is they invited a whole bunch of models, and then everyone could swap models every 30 minutes or so. But I decided, no, I don't want to share models with everyone. I want to take my own models. It cost me 300 rand or something like that. So I took my own model. I paid for her. I paid for my makeup artist, and I planned this weeks in advance. And as I said, I made the outfit, and the concept was fast fashion, and what world would we be leaving our kids? Like, what would we look if we were in this fabulous kind of outfit in this very derelict world? And
Mm,
that was a whole shoot that was surrounding it, and it was very eerie. Kempton Park Hospital is very run down, and it's got no water, no electricity. Um, you've got to sign an indemnity form to get in there. And in some places it's pitch black. But yeah, you can. I mean, the next images as well were the same shoot. but it was just it was a great shoot. My model was an absolute star, and my assistant as well was also. And these were all taken in the hospital. It was just fantastic places in and around the hospital to shoot. Yeah, and I just wanted to speak about fast fashion and what it's doing to us, and what world we're going to be left with if we continue in the way that we are. This was taken in the same hospital on the second floor, which was quite a trip because you had to walk up a very rickety flight of stairs with no light. And I basically just did this in Photoshop afterwards. So I did the exposure where I had her moving around the room, and it was just kind of eerie. And that wheelchair that crumpled, everything else is actually at the shoot. That was not put in for Photoshop. That was actually at the shoot. There was this crumpled old wheelchair. There was syringes all around the place. It was an
Oh,
interesting
gosh.
day.
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah,
say the color was actually perfectly here, with blues and yellows here.
absolutely perfect.
Very conducive for photography. It's a
Absolutely. There
fabulous
was, I
shoot.
mean, thank you. Yeah, the whole place. I mean, I'd love to go back there, but I've kind of done what I can. But I would love to go back and explore a little bit more. I didn't really go too far. I didn't venture too far into it, but yeah, there's some very interesting places to shoot.
All right. So there's also from the Kempton Park Abandoned Hospital.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the same thing. We walked into this room, which was, I think, the old mess hall or something like that, and it had a little bit of light coming in from the side, and it was very like 1970s, so it was very kind of kitsch. You know, if you remember, like Afrikaans kind of
mm,
kitsch, kind of mustards and browns and dusty and gross. Like the floor and everything was just icky, but it was a great place to shoot. Lots and lots of details.
yeah, something Ashley and I spoke about with our interview would be that of the dress flippers. Did you have a couple of dress flippers here as well?
So I call them my fluffers. But yes, I grab whoever I've got, a makeup artist, an assistant, a passerby. I've often used my friends as flippers, but you've got to have a flipper who is available
Mm.
to successfully flip the dress. But yeah, they're not easy to come by.
All right. So this is the one that we spoke about earlier as well. One of your proudest
Yeah.
moments.
So this was with Carl Taylor. He spoke about this shot. So this was one of my models, Scarlett. Is a wonderful model. And I did this shoot with another photographer where we were just playing with gels. I've never played with gels before, and we just took a day and we each got a model and we just played around with gels. And I just loved the quality of the light and the. I feel like I got it right. I mean, the best. If you have a look at the best images, not everyone was as good as this, but for me, I love the look and the feel. I love the complementary colors and the
Mhm.
I love everything about that image. Yeah. But it was Carl Taylor actually introduced it at one of his shows, which was very pleasing for me.
Oh yeah. So working with gels is quite tricky because the exposures are, I won't say, yeah,
Very-
I will actually say it's a little bit weird with the gels because some gels subtract more light than others, so it's not as intuitive as what you normally feel
Absolutely.
with white light.
And you think it's just the color, but it's not. It's how they actually react on a person's skin and what color
Mm.
what's your other color light working with and what's your background look like. Like everything in life, it's a lot more complicated than it first seems. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I actually should play with it a bit more.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to see that. All right. So here with the painted set, I'm very intrigued by this.
So this was the test project for another set that I was going to do with a friend of mine. But this is my daughter, who rolled her eyes incessantly when I asked her please to come and pose. She's been posing for images of mine since she was about 6 years old. And she said, like, what are we going to do this time? And I was like, well, if you don't mind, I'm going to paint you. And she's like, what do you mean you're going to paint me? I was like, I'm going to paint on you. And what had actually happened is, this is around the time that I had joined that competition, that ISO competition, and they had categories. Sorry, not the ISO competition, the uh, Africa Photo Awards has got a competition, and they had two categories. One was fine art and one was conceptual, and I couldn't for the life of me get an answer from them as to what did they mean by conceptual and what did they mean by fine art. Like, and I looked online and no one would explain it to me, and to me it was extremely frustrating. I understand, yes, a concept is like a concept, but if you have a look at conceptual images out there and you have a look at fine art, there's a very, very fine line. There is a difference between the two of them. And I was like, you know what? If you take a picture of a fine art painting, is that conceptual or is it fine art? And that, I think, just kind of like made me think, what happens if I paint a fine art painting on someone and take a picture of that? Is that conceptual or is it fine art? And that's what sparked this idea off. And I wanted to almost make it feel like she was a painting. So yeah, there's the other one. But they're, I don't know how to explain it other than they're painted. That's literally a man in a room with a light, and I've painted on them, and
I
it
hope
came
you
the
don't
whole.
mind.
No, no.
Sorry to
Oh, there we
interrupt you. I
go.
hope you don't mind if we just played a video. So all of this is actually painted. So none of this was post-production, adding the brush in
Yeah,
a Photoshop
I
or
didn't touch
whatnot. It's
anything.
literally
Yeah.
everything painting. Even the light source has
So
its own little glow as well.
yeah, it was. This is my very good friend who sat for me. Very patiently. We went through, I think, 2 bottles of wine, and she sat and we just played around, and I literally didn't touch these photographs afterwards with Photoshop at all. I literally changed the contrast a little bit, and that was about it, and everything else was painted on. But I recently saw someone else has already done it. Alexa Mead. I'll put her name in there. She's also she's made a whole career out of it, but I've never seen it been done before. But it was a really, really fun day. Um, and yeah, just enjoyable to do if you enjoy painting. That is.
Gosh, now look at that. Stunning.
People don't often realize what they're seeing until you explain it
Mm.
to them. You know, and
The
actually,
first time
once
I saw this, I was, oh, sorry?
no, this went a little bit viral. I got calls from all over the place to do articles on it, um, and it was quite exciting. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, the first time I saw this, I think one of our marketing people asked you to be a photographer of the week, and I saw this image and I was just spellbound immediately. I thought it was Photoshop, but when you look closer, it's all done in studio.
That's why I put a cigarette. If you have a look at one of the images, there's actually a cigarette in her hand, and that's why I put a cigarette in her hand, just so people could see that it's real. It's not Photoshop. It's not,
Mm.
you know. Yeah. So that's exactly it. I just decided to do a guy, a different look. Um, I don't think I've
Yeah.
taken this as far as I can. I think there's still lots more to do, but yeah, I'll have to wait a little while. Wait till it's warmer at least, because I can't have a model sitting half naked. It's a bit cold for that.
Oh gosh, at least it's warming up. It's my first interview without a massive jersey on.
Absolutely. It's been a cold winter.
All right, so let's see what's next. Okay, also one of my favorites.
Yeah, these girls. So these were actually one of two girls that just kind of stopped me one day and said, would you mind doing a shoot with us? Whenever you need someone for a shoot, please phone us. And they're very pretty girls. And they came round, and I didn't really conceptualize this at all. I've got a kind of couple of items in my wardrobe that I use, and a couple of old wedding dresses that I've managed to actually paint and get messed up, and I put them in that, and I made a crown, and those things on her fingers are from China Mall. They're just like metal kind of I think that I don't want to, do appropriation, but I think it's from the Chinese culture where they have those things on the fingers. But I just spray painted them black, and yeah, I imported that wing from an Adobe stock. I paid for Adobe stock and just put it together. But yeah, I love the mood, and this is what I was talking about. A lot of my work is very blue. I don't like Ashley's work is very like red and orange and yellows, and mine's is on the other side of the scale, like blues and greens, and it's so strange. I mean, Ashley, I can remember listening to her interview with you. She was saying, I've often tried to go, I wish I had a blue period. It's like, I love my blue period. I wish I had a red period because I could never ever come up with something that's very red and warm, and but her work looks spectacular like that, and I love my work like this kind of blue undertone almost.
Okay, great stuff. Let's see what's next. All right, yeah. Sorry, something I wanted to point out would be the practicalities of all of these shoots. So all of this done by hand. It's just the wings in the previous shot that were downloaded from Adobe stock. But something I do appreciate would be all the practical effects going into your shoots.
So this was very practical because this was about 5 pillows that I literally and attached with cotton or fishing wire to my ceiling. And then I have a wonderful woman who I get dresses from. She is a designer for Viennese opera, and she does all the
Wow.
dresses. You look into her studio, and she's just got this incredible array of dresses. And she lent me a dress for the shoot, and I thought, oh, I want to do something really light and airy. And so I saw this dress, and then this went with very well with the kind of clouds and whatever, and then the blue wig, obviously. And this was literally I painted that same studio that I painted before. I painted it blue, and then I just had these clouds floating everywhere. And yeah, I love the shoot. I love the hair. I love everything about it. I think I did 5 different looks on the shoot. It's like the thing is, I don't shoot for 500 images. I will shoot maybe to get 5, 10 maximum out of one shoot. But that's it. That's all I get out of the shoot, really.
So just to confirm, you painted the backdrop. So from fabric or something also repurposed?
So we call it a hardboard that you like. It's quite bendy, but you can tack it onto a wall. I've converted my garage into my studio, which is great because I can do whatever I want with it, with the wall, whatever. I've painted the wall like a normal color, but then I have very big, like the back of a cupboard. I actually took apart a cupboard. That's where I got it from. It's the back cardboard in a cupboard. I know what's called PDF.
The material PVC.
No, it's not PVC. The backing on a cupboard door, on the back of a cupboard.
I know
like
what you mean.
cardboard. I forget what it's called now. But I use that very, very big sheets of it, and I literally pluck it onto the wall with a couple of nails, and I paint that. So I've got about 6 sheets of that in my studio, which are constantly being painted and repainted and repainted. So yes, and then I put canvas on the floor, rolls of
I enjoy
canvas.
that very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks spectacular, and the repurposing of all of this stuff. Now also here at home, I have so many things I need to use still, but no, just plan to, and I kind of enjoy the practicality of it all. Just try to create something different, and every time it is something new as well.
Absolutely. I think that's probably the biggest enjoyment for me with photography is actually creating a set. It's set building. That is a big part of photography for me. I love to create an environment where you can shoot, if you don't have it outside, whatever. And I've been collectively hoarding things over years and years and years. Like I never realized why. It was only when I became a photographer. Oh, that's why I've got those 3 old suitcases lying in the corner there. That's why I've got, and like 30 different plates, or, I selectively keep things over many, many years. And as a result, I have quite a nice library of different weird stuff to use, but I think a lot of photographers are like that. I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I moved recently, and I just have those black containers full of props and masks and fabrics and things. It's Always annoying when you need to move, but you always
But it's
think
like
you're going to
Christmas. You
use
get
it
to
more in
open
the
them
future.
again.
Oh yeah,
It's
and
like
when
Christmas.
you try to sort out,
Like, ooh,
when
absolutely.
you try to sort out everything, then you find everything again, and you just start wearing it by yourself, and you're having fun. You think about the possibilities for photo shoots and whatnot. Yeah, it's something I
Exactly.
do enjoy personally as well. All right, so what's next? Okay, this one I
So
liked as well.
this was for that competition I was telling you about earlier on, the ISO competition,
Mm,
where they would give you a word each week, or a letter. I can't remember. Uh, it was a letter. It was a letter, and you would have to come up with a word with the beginning of that letter. So this was, we got H that week, and it was hot-headed was my word for the week, and
okay.
it was a complete fluke. I actually, that bag was really like lit in my studio. I didn't realize it would burn so quickly, but it burned very, very quickly. It was not her in it. It was on a broom handle, but she was holding the broom handle while this bag burnt. And then I literally photoshopped it onto her. And I love that the stance that she's got. She's just kind of sitting there very casually, and this head is on fire. Yeah, I just love that image. But it was for competition. But it was hot-headed was the word we had to come up with a concept for that.
Yeah, so we had a couple of questions concerning how do you get going with a concept. So these competitions that you partook in, especially the ASA one that we did during the pandemic. So if I recall correctly, they had different words on a spinning wheel, and they would spin the
That's
wheel, and you
right.
kind of need to build. So do you think that's a good idea just to kind of do among yourself? So if you're lacking inspiration, just put words on a spinning board and just do whatever the thing lands on.
I love that concept. I absolutely love that concept. I think it's a great idea. If you really want to stretch your imagination, it's a wonderful way to do it. You know, if you're ever stuck, you don't know what to shoot, you can't think of something to shoot. Words are fantastic kind of examples to really get you, because if you, even if you don't come up with a concept from that, it'll get the wheels turning. It'll get your head thinking in a lateral kind of direction as opposed to just a
Mm.
vertical. That's how everything is. So yes, I do. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I would definitely recommend it. And people want for inspiration. Shoot other competitions, enter competitions. You know,
Mm.
um, you, you never know. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, something I planned on doing, I just wonder why I didn't continue doing it. Yes, it happened quite a while ago. I did the spinning board thing. So on one board, I have a color, and on a different board, I have an object. So it kind of lands on orange, and then whatever object, and I need to construct a concept out of the two. Yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely on board
brilliant.
with you saying that it's definitely a good idea to do something like that.
Yeah, you should do a competition on through CameraStuff and see what happens. Get
Yeah,
you
it's a
lots of
good idea.
exposure. I guarantee you
Mm.
that.
All right. Okay, it's in the pipeline. So
There we
check it
go.
out in future. We're definitely going to do that. All right. So next image. Okay, tell us about this one.
So this was for during lockdown actually. um, I managed to get my friend out, and it was for another competition actually. Was fish out of water was the concept, and jacaranda trees were in bloom that year, and I thought, oh, I need to do something with the jacaranda trees, and I thought, okay, I've got this dress, and then I used my friend who was a model, and I thought, what's the complementary kind of the opposite color of purple is orange, okay, goldfish, fish out of water, and that's just kind of how the idea developed, and yeah, it was literally during lockdown, so we had to run out in the middle of the afternoon, kind of camera in hand, and quickly go stand in the middle of the road with this fish bowl and whatever. So the fish aren't there, but the fish bowl is, and the origami fish at the bottom are there, and the water's there. So we were lugging around a bucket of water, and then we had to quickly take a photograph before anyone else saw us, and we got arrested. But it was a fun day. But yeah, you're wondering where the concept come from. That's how it happened.
Gosh, yeah. So those are origami fish. Didn't notice.
Hmm.
How clever. That's super clever.
Yeah, that
So,
was. I didn't have time to kind of position them so you could see that they're fish, but they are in fact little origami fish that I spent hours and hours trying to fold and get ready. But yeah, that was a concept.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm picking up a theme here. So kind of on the fly photography, thinking on your feet. Is that a fair assumption or estimation of what you're doing? So
Yeah,
just allowing
absolutely.
things to quickly happen. So to have an idea, but just allowing things to just unfold on a day.
I don't think I'm calm enough to let something sit and stew for hours and hours and hours.
Mm.
Or days or weeks or months. I will forget about it. So I literally like to come up with idea and shoot it, and that's when I've found that I get the best kind of, because often my first idea is my best. If I sit and I stew around and I play and I don't come up with anything often better than my first idea. So my first idea, I like to kind of think of it, and if I've got the availability, like a model and the dress and whatever, then I go for it and I shoot it. Um, I'm not a very thoughtful photographer, if you know what I mean.
Well, it certainly produces a lot of fantastic images. All right, so
Thank you.
let's do this one.
So this was part of a series that I had done where I was convinced I was going to shoot the entire library of fairy tales. So I think I started off with Alice in Wonderland, and I did a shoot around that, and then I went and I did Red Riding Hood, and I did that, and then this was the Snow Queen. And I always try and think, how can I make something not necessarily South African, different to the original. I didn't want to have, this white girl with the white hair and whatever. And I thought, something extremely African is just to use this beautiful, regal woman. And she's a model, she's wonderful, wonderful woman. And I had a makeup artist come in and she kind of put snow, kind of fake snow on her eyebrows and her lips. And this was an old wedding dress that I told you I had. And I got a snow
Hmm.
machine, and the duplication just happened by chance when I was playing around with Photoshop afterwards. I thought, oh, she got these two images. So she hadn't actually moved her body, but she'd moved her head slightly. And I thought, oh, that would be amazing to put like I have opposite each other. And it's actually stayed one of my favorite shoots for ages. But yeah, it was supposed to be the Snow Queen, the fairy tale version of the Snow Queen.
Yeah, so very practical stuff again. So the snow machine. Where do one find a snow machine?
So parties, same place you'd find a bubble machine, So you go to a place that rents them. I think that was cost me about $200 to rent it for the
Oh,
day, and
okay.
then you've got to buy the
Not bad.
bubbles and whatever, and you can rent a snow machine. I want to eventually own all of those things. I want to own a mist machine, and I want to own a bubble machine and all of that. But yeah,
They're going to start a Hollywood studio sometime soon.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of my favorite photographers, Gregory Cruz, has got his productions on such a huge scale. Um, I think he's complete opposite to me. He plans photography over months or years almost, and just to film this one image, and like he's literally got light crews and sets and production. I mean, it's about 100-man team to produce one image. But yeah, that's eventually what I'd like to get to.
All right. So we still have a lot of people still watching. So we're going to talk about a workshop you have planned for the future. So we're just going to talk about that. So let me just get
Yeah.
that on screen. All right. So Tarryn is indeed going to host a workshop. So that's going to happen the 1st of October. And also, as a nice little touch, CameraStuff is going to sponsor it. So we are offering a 10% discount to all attendees. But beyond that, Tarryn, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your workshop?
Yeah, sure. I'm very excited to host this. It's my first workshop, so I've never done this before. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but basically, it was just my idea to take people through a shoot from start to finish. So, how I come up with the concept, how I actually visualize creating the mood board, um, getting a team together, dealing with a team, um, make sure everyone finds a place in the same day, and then actually shooting the concept. So, or before that, sorry, making the props and making the dresses, how if you don't have money to go and buy crowns and stuff like that, I make all of my own crowns. I make most of my own dresses. not like a sewing course, but just how I drape the dresses on the models. So to get because none of my stuff you could wear out, it would all fall apart. You actually need to just drape it on the model and photograph it for that like 10-minute period. And then the actual shooting on the day. So the lighting and what settings I use. And then after that, I'm hoping to do like a workshop with the photography. So they'll come back, and once I've digested the images, I will take them through on a Zoom call. I'll take them through editing the whole photograph from beginning to finish.
Wow.
And it'll be lunch included, so it'll be a fun day, lots of wine. Um, yeah, hopefully, I hope it goes well. I'm very much looking forward to it.
All right, so just to go through the workshop outline, so this is what's going to be covered: how to draw inspiration from everyday life, how to create and build the world in your head with everyday and found objects, how to drape and style material into gorgeous dresses, how to build a beautiful crown. So you're going to do that. So people are going to be supplied with the material to do so. How to work with a team of other creatives, how to Photoshop. So you mentioned the Zoom meeting afterwards as well, how to manage your workflow, and how to publish your work. So that's not typical workshop stuff. So just getting a concept and building it from scratch, I think this is definitely worthwhile for anyone wanting to, build a style for themselves. So from my side, I think this is definitely going to be worthwhile.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to give some answers to questions that I had when I started that no one had answers for me. I wanted to know all of this stuff
Mm.
when I started, and I literally just had to learn it myself. Whereas if you come to a workshop, I'll show you how I do it.
All right. So to book, they just need to contact you. So we can drop
Absolutely.
your email address in the comments. I'll do that now. Okay, so while I type, I don't know if there's something else you want to mention.
Oh no, not at all. Just yeah, no, not really. I think we've said it all. Sorry. And then you can also get me on my telephone number as well. If you go to my page, it's on my page, the workshop, and I've also created an event on the 1st of October. There is an event under Tarryn Goldman Photography.
Okay, very good. So your email address is out there for everyone to get hold of you. So if you want to book, please do so. As a reminder, all the attendees will get a 10% CameraStuff discount voucher as well. All right, so we covered the workshop. Also, in addition to that, I've dropped in your Instagram handle and your website as well. So obviously, we can't cover all of your wonderful concepts, but if you want to explore more of Tarryn's work, just go to the website and follow her on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. And so much inspiration here.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
All right. Okay, so I have a couple of extra questions for you. I don't
Sure.
know if you have any time constraints, but we can just quickly
No,
run
not at
through
all.
them. All right, perfect.
Sure.
So, all right. So, what is in your photography dream list? So, objects and people, places, events, etc., that you desperately want to take photo shoot of, and why?
Africa Burn is the one place I would love to shoot at.
Hmm.
Just because I think it's an incredible environment that is just very conducive to my style of photography. I think you get some incredible otherworldly shots. Yeah, I'd love to shoot there. I have never shot there, never been, would love to go.
Yeah, I think that's also a top 10 of mine.
Mm.
Okay. So, in regards to photography, what was the best and worst advice that you've ever received?
Best advice would be shoot, shoot, shoot. I said it earlier on. That was the best advice that someone told me. Worst advice would be you can just fix that in Photoshop because it's never true. Uh, it's never, ever, ever true.
All right. So, just a couple of questions here from the audience. So Martin say I joined late. Will the recording be available on the website? So it's available on YouTube. So after the recording, it will go there automatically. So the CameraStuff shop YouTube channel. So it will be aired there automatically. So it will stay there. So if you have joined late or you want to watch this again, just go to the YouTube channel. So let me perhaps find a link for that. Yeah, so everything that we do automatically goes to the YouTube channel, stays on Facebook as well, but I think YouTube is just easier to find all of this. Okay, so while I try and find this, let me just quickly get another question for you. And it's going to be our last question as well, from my side at least. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Gosh, I don't really know. I'd love to own a gallery. I'd love to just shoot for me, and produce what I love to shoot and sell my work as art. Um, it's that imposter syndrome thing. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I'd love to be there. That's ideally where I'd like to see myself in 10 years' time. Um, just having really gotten to know my craft and gotten to a stage where I can create what I want to create, what's in my head. I'm often constrained by cost and, area, venue, kind of whatever. But I'd love to have it where, like Annie Leibovitz, she's got no time constraint, no cost constraint, no, on her work. And I think she produces incredible work. So yeah, I'd love to be there in 10 years' time.
All right, so I think, yeah, that's it from me. I don't know if anyone in Facebook or YouTube land has any other questions to ask you, so we're going to give that 2 minutes time. So if you're still watching, I see we have a bunch of people still watching. So if you have any questions to ask, you're welcome to do so in the comment section. So I'm going to give that a minute or so. All right, but in the meantime, I'm going to say from my side, this was a spectacular interview, gained a lot of insight, really enjoy your photography. It was very inspirational. And also to hear from the artist herself. Yeah, I think this was a fantastic session.
Thank you very much, Conrad. Thank you for having me. It was a great evening. Get to talk about myself all night. I feel quite spoiled. But thank you. Thank you very much for everyone who's watching, and appreciate it.
No, we had a lot of attendees today. Yeah, so as a reminder, everything will be on the YouTube channel. So if you have missed it, joined late, just go into the link. I dropped it in the comments here. Yeah, so directly after this interview, it should be there from the first minute already. Okay, it seems like no questions. All right, perfect. So I think that's it from us. So
Thank you
Tarryn,
very
once
much.
again, thank you so much. This was an incredible interview. And yeah, that's going to be a goodbye from us. So thank you for joining everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube land. And enjoy the night further. So you too,
Thank
Tarryn.
you.
Hope it's a
You
spectacular
too.
night as well and a spectacular weekend.
As well. Likewise. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.